Have you guys ever walked past somebody and they just look like freaky ripped, and you make the assumption that it's because they're either a genetic freak or they must be doing juice, steroids, if you don't know what that is? Well, today's guest is going to actually change your perception on what it means to get freaky ripped as a natural bodybuilder. He's literally for the last 13 years been a pro as a natural bodybuilder. He's made his career on coaching and building a business in and around natural bodybuilding. He's won 2 titles, 22 contests, and he's done content with guys like Mark Bell, which you were probably just hearing as we were chopping it up at the beginning of the pod, and Jeff Nippard. Did you say his name? Nippard, yeah.
The Nips.
Yeah. Who's another pretty prolific natural bodybuilder. And, you know, today we're going to share his story about going from pain to profit, from being an employee of field registered dietitian, Boy Scouts Learning for Life, to running his own business as an entrepreneur. And then some of the things he's thinking about today is his life changes a little bit. You're getting ready to have a kid, get married, all really amazing things in your life. It's about time.
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about bodybuilding. We're going to talk about business and entrepreneurship. So without further ado, man, Alberto Nuñez, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Did you ever think you were going to be an entrepreneur when you were growing up?
There was a part of me that's like, I want something extra for myself. Like, that I was deserving of at least pursuing what I wanted. I just didn't know what that was. But I knew that, okay, there's what everyone else wants for themselves, what people want for me, but like, what do I want for myself? And I think that's kind of how we got here. Just you follow that faint voice till you get there.
Did you have entrepreneurial parents? Yeah, I mean, my dad was a contractor, so he was a solopreneur at best. Never really grew up beyond that. I just knew like sports and athletics. And so that's where I put most of my time, energy, and effort. I was always pretty good at just working hard. Like I wasn't the fastest, the biggest, or the strongest. But I loved to hit people and I just loved to work. I was a workhorse. So that took me pretty far. But I think we were also the generation that was told, you know, like go to school, get a degree, get a job, and then like it'll all work out. But for guys like us, that's not really that fulfilling, I think. And I think that's most people listening to this podcast probably reach that point or have already reached that point where they're like, I just, no amount of money, no another promotion, switching to another job is not ultimately going to satisfy me. So what was it for you that ultimately kind of determined, hey, I'm going to walk this different path? But specifically one, bodybuilding, right? That's a very independent, lonely kind of road. And then 2, I'm going to make my entire life, work, money, career off of that industry. What was the catalyst for you?
You know, the signs are there. It's just sometimes we ignore them. So for me, bodybuilding was like my dad, like, man, I wish I had his, like I'm a watered down version of him.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing, and you just used to it, but he literally looked like a little Mexican Mike Tyson. He trained for 3 years and he just happened to keep it all.
Right.
You know, but that was my dad, and that's my dad's thing, you know?
Right.
So my friends would come in, they'd look at my dad and they're like, dude, your dad's a beast. Like, what's up? You know? Yeah. And you know how it goes. You kind of rebel against like what your parents are doing.
100%.
You know? So I was a slight late bloomer. I started going to the gym because a buddy wanted to train, and I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I need a friend at this point. I'll go hang out with you. And it just felt right, like from rep 1. Because prior to that, I was that athlete that I was like, I'm athletic enough. I'm fast enough. I don't need the weights. Right. I'm good at the sport. But I was like, I love this more than like, which at the time for me was sprinting. I'm like, I love this way more than track. Yeah. I hate to admit it. So anyhow, went down that path. And I think for me, I was also going down some other paths that weren't necessarily the most positive. And I remember I was already starting to ditch my friends to go to the gym. I had a problem with that. And then we had a job. I remember this, like a job, you know, and I was like, yeah, it'd be nice little money. But you know what? I think I'll go to the gym. So go to the gym, and then I get home later that day and I find out that all of them just got in like some bad trouble.
Right.
Bad trouble. And I'm like,
Gym
okay.
saved you.
Yeah. Yeah. So should have listened there. But, you know, I think like you said about college, like I kept going down this route, that route. None of those things were necessarily fulfilling to me. Like I was like, you know what? I think I'll get a bachelor's in psychology. You know, okay, I'll do nursing. No, okay, I'll get the RD. What I should have done is just gone for what I wanted
right
from the start. And I think at the time it was a bizarre thing to pursue because like early 2000s bodybuilding, even the IFBB pros, it wasn't the same economy as right now. It's like you're either top 3 in the Olympia or you're doing what was known as like gay for pay.
Yeah.
Like muscle worship prostitution. Like you look at a lot of the bodybuilders from that generation.
Yep.
They all did a little of that on the side to get by. So imagine for a natural bodybuilder. like
I'm not that big.
You're not.
There's not really like a set, we'll call it league or contest circuit yet. It's still kind of evolving at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Small piece of the pie. So to say I want to eat off that, that would have been bizarre to everyone who was invested in me and wanted to see me do okay.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I should have done, you know? Like,
but don't you think it's part of the journey too? Like you have to go and we can say that, but at the same time, you got all this experience, you tried all these things, and then you walked into that with complete certainty that like, that's actually what I'm supposed to be doing. So there was no what ifs, there's no questions in the back of your mind, because there is the risk too, when you start in entrepreneurship that you're not making money really, right? Or it's hard to come by. Nobody just comes out of the blocks just crushing it. And so you do have those little thoughts like, should I get a job? You know? And if you hadn't experienced the misery of doing those other things, you might have gone and got a job.
Yeah.
So I think you gotta weed that stuff out for sure. But most people candidly don't really become entrepreneurs. Like the vast majority of companies that are started in this country are people between the ages of 30 and 40. So you're still trying to figure it out. I mean, I was an idiot when I was in my 20s. I don't think I could have run a business.
No. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me because by the time you're 30, 40, you're just kind of tired of all the BS.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me just do my own thing. I get away from these people.
100%.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like we tend to learn, like we can hear from someone else. Like, you know, people make this mistake. Mistake can become cliche almost.
Yeah.
But it's not until you experience it. You're like, oh, okay. All right. And those things stick with you. And like now I know, like, all right, I'm only going to go for the things that really matter and align with my value.
Yeah, light you up.
Yeah.
Get you excited.
Yeah.
I heard a story about, so you're part of a crew, 3D 3D Muscle Journey, that you guys all kind of met in the forums of bodybuilding.com. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Man, like, so with social media, I've always just hopped on whatever platforms there. So, you know, message board forums were a big thing back in the day.
Yeah, that was like the OG of social media.
I remember, you know, my handle was Father Flex. So as soon as I decided that, I'd go to all the major forums and just like make sure I had that handle.
Do you still own that handle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's
I'll
go.
log in like every few years. Just
On bodybuilding.com just
yeah.
to check. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, we started there and then, you know, we started doing work there, but we met backstage at shows.
Okay.
Crazy. And it was kind of, we all kind of wanted this, I think, in a way. It's like, okay, this is our passion. This is our hobby. But if we can make a little money off that, like this could be our career. Actually, you wouldn't think about it because it sounds so bizarre to say.
Yeah.
But here we are 12 years later. It's like what I wake up and do every single day. It's like to go play bodybuilder, like on the computer.
Yeah.
Insane.
So let's talk about your business. How do you make money? What are the different ways? Obviously you have coaching, right? Do you have sponsorships? You guys create courses? What else do you guys do? seminars is another one, I think.
Yeah. So it's primarily coaching, and then yes, releasing courses. So through education mostly. So it's an education platform.
Yeah.
But that's probably very close to 100% of how we bring in revenue. But it doesn't feel like work, because it's just things that, like, we know, you know what they say. It's like the best way to write a book is to live the book.
Right.
So I'm putting out a course on how to create your own training split. It's just done it so many times. Yeah. Because I fantasized about it for free when I was like 16, 18, 19,
oh man,
20.
if there was just a way that I could find this course that taught me all the lessons that I needed to know.
So yeah, we're answering those questions for people on the daily. So you know how it goes with fitness. Like if you're in fitness, you better get used to like answering the exact same question like many times over, and you better keep like.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, what are the most common questions you get that our audience can take away and get the answer to? Because they probably all have them. What's the most common question that you get, or maybe a handful of them?
I think at the end, all their questions are, how do I make this hurt less?
Like soreness?
No, I mean across the board. Like hurt less as in, how can I make this? They're not asking it directly, but all the questions kind of come back to this. And at the end, when you stop and you think about what wisdom really is you as a person, because we're all like 24/7 trying to get away from pain.
Yep.
Whether it's a back fight that you had with your significant other, whatever. Like we're always trying to manage and get away from that. And fitness, the way they look at it is, it sounds like a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Before I get any actual revenue. So all their questions always go back to that. It's like, how can I make this as painless as possible, from the time that it's going to require, from the nutritional intervention standpoint, from the training itself. And all you can assure them really is that we will make it only as painful as it has to be.
Right.
But that's literally all the questions. All their questions literally come from that. Oh, same thing. Even if it's like a body image thing, like, how do I get rid of this?
Yeah.
It's the root of that is there's this pain, this discomfort that this person's living with. They're asking you, how can I alleviate this pain and this discomfort? That's all it is. It's like it's
just a weird dichotomy, because nothing works like that. So it's funny you say that, because I was
title.
Yeah, it's freaking pain to profits, guys. Come on, like you got to go through it. So I was actually in your old articles on bodybuilding.com, and you were getting interviewed, and the question that was given to you was, how did you do it? And the quote was, no gimmicks, no fad diets, no shortcuts, basically everything hard anybody wants to do, which explains why most people never achieve the results they want. I made sacrifices. I made it a priority. I worked my ass off. Hard work is always rewarded. So I made sure to work as hard as possible as I could. That's literally what you just said. And that's like, I think the difference between, and that's what I love so much about bodybuilding as it relates to entrepreneurship. We were having this conversation at the barbecue at my house. And you said, I'm working on a bunch of new things, right? And making a big kind of pivot in your business as you're getting ready to have a kid and get married, and life is changing a little bit. And I was like, just like bodybuilding, it's going to take longer than you think. It's going to require insane consistency, and you just do it for long enough and eventually you'll be rewarded. I love that. That's like the best piece of advice. If you want to start a business, just plan on being consistent. I heard it at church this weekend. The difference between devotion and discipline. Like, you don't have to be disciplined to love your wife. You have to be devoted to her, right? And if you're devoted to your business, the game, bodybuilding, well, then you'll be fine. But if discipline's the only thing that's holding you there, like they talk about your why or your passion or your purpose, then when it gets hard, when the dieting gets hard, right, to get on stage, to get sub 5% like you get, you're going to quit because you're not devoted to it.
Yeah, it's a part of it. You have to be okay with the pain, like to some extent. That's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
And so long as you survive at the other end, usually you come out with a little profit, right? Funny, I wrote that when I was 22 and I'm like, oh, see how cringe this is. And no, I agree. The only thing I would add to that is that there's a certain point, and you and I get this now. Yeah. Like you need to outsource.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of that, right? It's like, okay, that makes sense to a noob, someone who wants to get their fitness like in line. They don't know where to start.
Yep.
Right. So like, you hire a person for this, for that, because you understand that's out of your pay grade. And you understand that like, okay, it's going to come back to you eventually. It's an investment. But yeah, that's all PTs kind of do, right? Like if you get yourself a good personal trainer, they kind of keep you away from that stuff and they keep you in the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Because people will do some funky things to avoid pain, but you just bring more pain like, to yourself at the end.
100%. You hit on a good point. I always say there's like 5 ways to get into a business, be an entrepreneur. You're born into a family business. You spend 7 to 10 years in an industry where you like all of a sudden have enough knowledge and relationships, right?
Yeah.
You go bang your head against the wall. You find a mentor, right? Or probably some combination of all of those things. And there's really like 7 pillars in your life. You have your faith, you have your personal finances, you have your physical health, right? You got your social life, you got your career or your business, right? You got your intellectual growth, right? And then you have your social relationships and your friendships. And some of us are more innately programmed to be good in those certain areas. But like a lot of people as it relates to physical fitness, they don't have a clue about how long it takes, what is required, how to get the most out of it. And that's where having a good coach comes in. And there's business coaches, there's spiritual counselors, right? There's something for everybody. But I think that, you can build a business on the back of all of those 7 things. And you've just happened to choose the physical part of it. But there's also a big mental part of it as well, too. Like what would be your wisdom for people building a business or who want to, take their training seriously as it relates to like the mindset you got to have to be successful at it? Because, you chose a route that's really hard, natural bodybuilding. You could have taken you have the genetics to have done a bunch of gear and gotten super yoked and went after sponsorships and did all that, but you chose not to. It takes a different kind of mindset.
Yeah. I think sometimes that's why pivoting out of athletics into business is just such a natural path for like most athletes. It's over.
Yeah.
Right. And I've spoken about this like, a little bit more recently. That, we put our kids in athletics, not because we think like, okay, here's the next Tom Brady, here's the next Kobe. It's because we understand the benefits that come with having this concurrently run alongside your life. Like, you learn a lot of skills, life skills through sports. And it's a shame to me that, okay, high school, it's over. If you're fortunate, like post college, right? But some people never even start or you get to actually experience that. Like, that's crazy to me. But like, that's what fitness can do for people. It's like the reason we encourage our children to pick a sport and, just go out there and be part of it. That's exactly what fitness can do for an adult who is trying to better exist with the realities of this world. So the more mobility you're able to create for yourself via physical fitness. Like my mobility is I just mean like being able to exist in a more fit state. Like that's going to translate over into everything else you do. Like 100%. Like I don't see how like you can be an ambitious entrepreneur, but like not dedicate at least a certain segment of your life, your day, small segment, doesn't have to be much, to making yourself like physically fit. Like it makes like, I feel like I get too much credit when I step out of like my bubble just because of the way I look.
100%.
You know, I'm like, I'm really dumb here, bro. Like, I'm sure Jocko experiences this all the time.
Right.
You know, like looks like a guy named Jocko, right? Right? Like just when he steps into a room, it's like, whoa, like, you know, like.
Well, I mean, the numbers don't lie, right? People who are physically fit tend to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how you want to skin it. It's confirmation bias, right? Like you look physically fit, people just assume that you're smarter. It goes along with it. But I always call it like a couple things we've already alluded to, but intentional suffering. Like if you don't intentionally put positive stress on your body, then everything feels like a level 10 emergency. But when you've, done 10 sets of 10 on squats, and you're in the hole, sucking wind, feeling like you're going to puke, you realize that like nothing that hits you that day is really going to be harder than that. Probably the only thing that could be harder than that is dying. And you just experienced what it felt like almost dying. So like nothing can be worse than that. So I think that's part of it. I also think like your body is like a sponge, and every time you lift and you sweat, it's like squeezing it out. It's like wringing out the sponge, right? And Tony Robbins says, which I totally believe, your thoughts are the language of your mind and your emotions are the language of your body, and they influence each other. And so you're naturally we can talk physiologically, just in a better state of mind when you hit the dopamine from getting a pump and catching a workout, right? So your thoughts are more positive. And when your thoughts are more positive, we're in a positive frame of mind, we're 34% smarter. So we're going to perform better. So there's all these, mutually beneficial things that go along with just being physically fit and having some physical prowess about you that translate really well into business. For me, I also look at it just like running the race for a long time. I got a lot of stuff that I want to do, and I can't support my family or my wife or my kids or my employees or my business or grow my podcast if I'm sloppy, fat, or have a heart attack, right?
Yeah. Your own, just being able to wake up becomes a bottleneck.
100%.
Yeah.
Or stay awake or work long hours or whatever it might be, like travel and hold it all together,
It might seem like it's a lot to manage at first, but the way I look at it, this is a good selling point, is that, as humans, we collect receipts on ourselves like all the time.
That's good.
If you're living, if you're acting like the person you say you are. And fitness gives you a chance to it's like whatever, all these things that seem like a pain in the butt, like going to the gym, getting your meals in, all this, they're actually receipts. I could be having kind of an off day, but since I got all my food in,
right,
because I made it to that training session, like that stuff adds up. That stuff adds up. We know we know when we're not living up to our potential, and it can be a nice placeholder when like other things in life aren't necessarily like where you want them to be yet, or other things in business in this case.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I tend to map my entire day around my training. I'm a morning guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just having a family, it's harder for me to train in the evening because I want to be home with my family. And so I used to try to do that, and I would miss constantly, right? Monday was great. I was rested from the weekend. I'd hit it, eat perfectly, catch my workout. By Friday, I'm eating like a college kid and I'm not hitting my workouts. And so finally I just said, you know what, no matter what, I'm always going to be a morning guy. And I've done that consistently. I mean, you get kind of programmed playing football, right? From early morning lifts, you're doing it. Then you do it in college. But in my professional life, I've had to be a morning guy. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are that way, who, at least busy business professionals are that way. Because at the end of the day, you're done. You're toast. You got nothing left in the tank. Some people try to go midday. I've never been able to do that, but it's always like an efficiency game too. I think people have a gross misconception that it's going to take, I got to spend hours in the gym. And that's not true. You and I both know that. I spend hours in the gym because I like to walk, think, contemplate, write, then I catch a workout. But what are your, top banger tips for busy people who want to build muscle, who want to be as efficient as possible in the gym, that they should be doing that they're probably not doing?
Man, with when it comes to fitness adaptations, diminishing returns like really just shows up like super quick. Super quick. So I train, I think right now I spend maybe about 6 hours a week in the gym.
Yeah.
And all. I could probably look, I'd say about somewhere like 80% of the way I do right now, training 90 minutes. So it's one of those things where, like, for me, I made a deal with the devil. It's like, all right, this lasts like 15, 20, 10%, whatever it is. For me, it's worth it.
Right.
You know, but for most people, probably not. You know, like you have better things to do at that point. So it really does not take a whole, I think strength training is probably the thing that is going to require the least amount of your time. I think cardio for most folks, if they're in the demographic that needs it, is going to take up more time. Cardio or steps, you can kind of combine those two. Maybe the meal prepping, just going shopping for your food, whatever.
Sure.
But the strength training, I think for most people, 90 minutes a week, and you are great.
You're talking training like 3 sessions, 30 minutes, basically.
That is it. If they're well organized, like I think to the lay person, I would look very similar to how I look right now.
Wow.
It's not on stage.
Sure.
Like the judges would be like, yeah, you kind of dip back a little bit, right? But I virtually look the same to everybody else, except the experts, right? So that's not a bad deal. Like strength training is one of those things where you don't need a whole lot of time.
I think that's good wisdom too, because I think that in our mind, we make it much bigger than it has to be. There was a point when we were heavy in the throes of scaling a marketing and technology company, having a kid, newly married, like trying to figure all the things out, you know? And I got very out of shape, like probably the worst shape of my life since I had been maybe like 13. Right. And I was just telling the story. Monday was great. Friday was an asshole, you know? And so finally I just woke up one day and I said, you know what I can do every single day is I can get up and I can walk for 30 minutes. It doesn't matter how tired I am. It doesn't matter. I can walk. If I'm half asleep, I can walk on a treadmill. And so I just committed to doing that. And then pretty soon that turned into like, hey, maybe I'll throw in 30 minutes of weights. And then before you knew it, I was training an hour a day, 4 to 5 days a week. And, you know, this old gray mare got her groove back. And I was on my way. And so I think, you know, small little tip is consistency supersedes everything in your life, in your business, but especially when it comes to just training. Like just be freaking consistent. We grossly overestimate what we can do in a year.
No, exactly. Because the 30 minutes like sounds like the 30 minutes of walking or the 30 minutes of weight training 3 days a week. That sounds like a waste of time almost.
Correct.
But no, it's not like, because to people, I'm like, think back to the last 5 years. Like that time's gone, bro. Like what if you had just done that like those last 5 years?
Yeah, you didn't just wake up one day and you were 40 pounds overweight. Like
it was a slow, creepy crawl, right? And the habits just get worse. And then eventually they're embedded in you. And fitness kind of works the same way. It's funny because I say that, hey, like this is what you would need to maybe get to 80, 90% of your genetic potential from a muscularity standpoint. But most people, it's funny, like once they get to that point, they're like, can I get more? You know?
Yeah.
Just because it's not even about they just want to find out more about themselves up here.
Yep.
You know, but they'll eventually ask you that. So look, the training, I think if I were a busy business owner, there is a way to construct. You just got to go see someone who knows how to do it.
Yep.
A program that has you training hard, like nothing matters for 30 minutes. Like it's meditation.
Yeah.
You know, like 3 days a week, 30 minutes. And then nutritionally, this is why I tell people all the time. It's just the rules. It's just the threes. If you stop in your day and eat protein 3 times a day, you have 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, you'd be surprised how good you'd be, like better off you'd be in a year.
Right.
And to a lot of people, it just doesn't sound like fancy or like is now, like it's not going to get me where I want to be now.
Yeah.
But I tell people this, it's like, okay, so imagine if you would have eaten this way, included these things. We're not talking about cutting things out. Like, it's an inclusive diet. You could do everything else you want to do. Go have your ice cream if you want. If you would have done these things for the last 10 years, every day, simple as they seem, would you be in better shape?
Yeah. The answer is always yeah. I think and that's a good takeaway too. Again, the parallels between training and entrepreneurship is like, can you do this for the rest of your life? Like the sustainability of it too, right? It's like when people come in and the first thing that they want to do is, I just want to get shredded. Like, well, maybe going down isn't the way. We got to go up. Like I see this more owning a gym and just being in this world since I was 18. I'm 38 now. So I got 20 years in the, I was a personal trainer when I was 18. That was my first time doing that. I feel so bad for those clients too.
Same.
But the number one thing I see is not overeating. Most people are underfed and like overstressed. That's the number one thing that I see. Entrepreneurs are notorious for that. And so they'll be sure to, go out and have that drink. They'll be sure to, go out and have that meal, but they won't train. They won't add more food to their diet, and they won't spend the consistent time to rebuild their metabolism in order to eventually cut sometimes in the future. I don't know. You tell me, do you see that a lot?
No, I love that because this like training to you and I, when we get in there and say we perform a set on the leg press, it's a really good day when it feels like your quads are being attacked.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to find it. You're just like, ooh, it's all clicking. Like they're training hard. I feel some good like feedback in pain usually. Right. And sometimes you have days where your body's very accepting of it and days where it wants to get away, but it's a good day. Your body's like, oh, let's go down that rabbit hole. Whatever happens, happens, bro.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's sick when you think about it.
It's super sick.
But like, that's what training is like the adaptation that takes place, whether it's strength or muscle, is because there was an attack on the system. And we have trained ourselves to frame stress in that way, where it's like, ooh, like I want more of this because of the outcomes that can come from it in strength or hypertrophy, muscle gain. Like, so what I'm saying is that this makes you so much more resistant to life's stress.
Yes.
Like physically, and that like, hey, like, you're not going to get some news most likely just like dropped it. Right. But also in that you can learn to frame life in that way.
Yes.
Where things are the way Michael Jordan looked at life. Like these are all challenges, like
yep.
That's what training does to you eventually. You're like, oh, okay, this is no different than a set of leg presses. I got what it takes. Let me go down this rabbit hole and pursue this. I'm not afraid,
It's such a great translation over to just being an entrepreneur and running a business and the highs and the lows that come with it and cracking through new doors and trying new things that you haven't done before and having to rely on other people to help you get there. And I want to let's parry off of the talking about bodybuilding and get more into your business journey. How has your business changed from when you first decided to go all in? And I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, after you became a pro, you decided to go, hey, I'm going all in on this bodybuilding as a business kind of thing. But how has your business changed from back then to what it is now? And maybe if I knew then what I know now, what would you have done differently? Like new entrepreneur talking to more seasoned entrepreneur.
All right. I think the biggest challenge is like, as you grow bigger, being able to still connect with your audience, with the customer.
Right.
Because part of you just, your brain kind of gets occupied with like these bigger problems, they're more abstract. It's almost like you're serving yourself or your ego. or the ego of the brand, even,
right,
as opposed to like the people who need.
Right.
So, like that is, it's funny. What hits home is a little spurt of just 50 Cent, like him talking about how one of the reasons that he was a good drug dealer was because he paid attention to like what these fiends wanted, you know? Whereas like the old guys, the guys that were like, you know, just busy, like out there flexing, driving around in their big old cars, and
we're selling the same old shit.
They weren't listening. So I think being able to step outside of yourself and listen to what the market is telling you, even if you don't necessarily agree or like the trends. It's kind of like if I were in the music industry, it's like, all right, maybe this isn't my favorite kind of music, but like I this is what the kids want. So sure, this is what we're going to do. So you have to be adaptive. I think that's the biggest thing, and try to stay a step ahead,
right?
Especially in fitness, because flavors, they keep changing all the time. It's the same things, the same principles. Those things stay the same, right? What gets people results stays the same, but the flavors and the mechanisms and the vehicles that get the words out to people, you have to be adaptive, whether you like it or not. I mean, yeah, run your business how you want to, and produce the music you want to, but no one's buying it. You're just sinking, bro. You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like the appeal of like everybody wants to look like a bodybuilder, but Ronnie Coleman, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to lift that heavy ass weight, right? And so I feel like the trend of bodybuilding flavors I think it's kind of making a comeback. I'm seeing a lot of the return to like, you know, the 90s era, the 80s era bodybuilders, right? Like people are getting excited about that again. So funny how it all comes full circle. But, you know, you've gone through a couple cycles now doing this for 13 years. You know, how have you had to pivot your business, and how are you thinking about pivoting your business today to keep up with the trends that are changing and adapting, you know?
Here's an example. I just want to do long form work. Like I've told you, dying like over this like fat loss book that,
right?
You know, it's just way too long, way too complicated, more complicated than it needs to be. But I'm just trying to pour everything I know. But there's a part of me that's also like, but you know what? I don't think these people care.
They don't.
They just want results, right?
Like I care. I'll read the book, right? You know,
because you want a deeper understanding of all these, right? So it's like I have to think about is this for my peers or is this for customers?
Right.
You know, I have a lot more customers potentially than I have peers, right?
Right. And the peers, you know, might not be willing to pay as much for the knowledge, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I'd say, you know, for me, it's like, all right, get off the long content stuff and maybe produce these one-liner things. Like I've been doing like these Instagram like exercise recommendations without context. That's what people don't get. It's like,
I know, but
like couscous salad is good, but what's the context? Like, how do I eat this? Is this like, right? So it's the same thing. If I throw you a leg extension combo, it's like the noob is excited. Right. You and me are like, so what do I do with this?
Yeah. Like, where do I put it in my program? And how many sets should I do? And is this like something I should superset or drop set or into my workout? Or,
you know what? I get it. That's what the market wants right now. Cause we have so many people. We're fatter than ever as a country. So the new people are coming in all the time.
Right.
And they just want something to do like now.
Yeah.
You know, cause you know how it is. Like when you get upset and you're at the point where it's like, I want to take action and do something. Yep. I just need something to do now. Right. Like you're walking.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, just throw those things out there. This is not long form, not stimulating, but it's not about me.
Yeah. You know? Do you think that, on that note, do you think that a lot of the industry, fitness related, preys on that kind of person? Like takes advantage of them and their ignorance? And I think that's probably the rub that you have, right? I have the same rub too, which is like, you know, I love Alex Hormozi, right? He's a guy, he's a great content guy, great marketing guy. But the way that he runs a gym, like pains me inside, right? The 6-week challenge, 6 weeks to 6-pack abs. That's effectively what he's selling. You and I both know that that's not reality, at least if we're not going to do it in a way that's sustainable, right? So I feel like I'm selling snake oil to people. And so that's like the fine balance of like, how do you wrestle with that? He said something that was pretty interesting. He called it the ham and the garlic concept. The dog has fleas. He goes to his grandma and says, how do I get rid of these fleas? She says, you just got to give him some garlic. So he goes and tries to give the dog some garlic, but then the dog like won't eat the garlic. So he goes back to his grandma. He's like, Grandma, I can't get the dog to eat the garlic. She goes, did you wrap it in some ham? He's like, no, you told me to give him garlic. So he goes and wraps it in some ham. The dog chews it and goes right down. Fleas go away. The concept being that sometimes you got to give people what they want before you can give them what they actually need. But I see a lot of the industry just gives them what they want without the follow-up of like giving them what they need, and that's kind of what Alex's pitch was. I'm going to get them in because they want the 6-week challenge. I know that's not going to work. Then I'm going to keep them in the gym for life. And that's ultimately what's going to help them. So that's the balance. But I mean, it sounds like that's a little bit of the game you're playing, but man, I have such an emotional trigger to that because I hate that part of the industry. It drives me crazy.
Exactly, man. Like that's kind of the issue. But again, we're so far removed from someone who just wants to change now,
right?
That we understand. You can think about your lowest point, right? Like if someone told you, you do this for 6 months, like you'll legit be at a very good spot,
right?
Yeah, you sign me up. Like I can make 6 months. Like it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard. Whatever. We're kind of disconnected from that sometimes. I feel.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and then at the same time, it's like I want to also catch these people because if I don't, someone else is going to catch them, and they might not have long-term plans for these folks.
But most of the time, they don't.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I commend you because where your gym is located, and like it's just like the demographic, you could absolutely crush these people if you wanted to.
Yeah, we could prey on them.
You could absolutely
yeah, I mean, it's our median house price is like 600,000. Household income's like 140 or something like that. I mean, it's highest in the country.
Yeah, you'd be able to. You'd be well off.
But we do it with personal training though. Like that's where the high ticket comes in. Is like you get a great one-on-one with somebody like Cynthia, right? And you're going to pay the premium to work with her, and then we're going to give the lion's share of the money to the trainer. So that we've decided to build a business that way, which is the product is actually the coaches. And if we can help level them up, they can make a lot of money. They'll stick around more, be happier, have less clients, but make more money, and everybody wins. All boats rise. It's a byproduct. And as a gym owner, that's the hardest thing to find is high quality, knowledgeable, passionate people who want to train people, who love it, who are probably better at it than I am. You know what I mean?
Again, it's like I tell my friends that I know how to make like millions of dollars in a year in this industry, but I won't.
Yes.
And they probably look at me like, just do it.
I got to be able to sleep at night, man.
Do it and then start a soup. So I mean, that's a big part of running. It's like, are you ethically okay with this? And
is it good is it going to create goodwill? Is it good by everyone? Going to create better friendships? That's how I think about business.
Does it elevate more people than just yourself?
Yeah, great. You got a bunch of money. Everybody hates your gut because you sold them a bunch of snake oil. Okay, so a couple topics that we're kind of butting up on our time here, but one that I want to talk about. You mentioned it the other day. I want to talk about TRT. So I'm on TRT. I've been on TRT since I was about 31. But you made a comment talking about how natural bodybuilders, just the world you live in. You don't train anybody who's not on testosterone replacement therapy. For those who don't know what TRT is. It's such a hot trend right now. And a lot of people think that like, oh, that's the thing I'm missing. I just need to go get on TRT and then I can just keep doing the same crap that I'm doing. And magically I'm just going to get buff. Right. But I actually want to hear your thoughts on that because you made a specific comment about it on social media that I thought was pretty interesting and something that I know to be true. But my reason for going on TRT was probably different than most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess people look at the hormone scale.
Yeah.
And
it's like a moving target, right? It's like, 300 to 1200, right?
Yeah. 300 to 1200 is about to go. But I mean, think about it this way. It's like, there's men out there that are 6'8".
Right.
It doesn't mean that like, man, maybe I should get that shin lengthening surgery. And
oh, that guy, what an idiot.
Right. So like, I'm perfectly functional at like 5'9". I think I still am. Right. So yeah, I think sometimes guys will get tested. They will see that they're not 1200 and assume that something is wrong. When in reality, it just in my experience, like the most jacked naturals I've seen, they tend to have hormone levels that are
modest,
very like average to below average. And this makes sense.
Right.
Because usually the guys that go on to do really well in the IFBB, IFBB is the untested federation for bodybuilding. When they tell like amateur competitors that compete non-tested what they use, they're like, you're lying.
Right.
And it's like, no, bro.
They're lying because it seems like it's not enough.
It seems like it's not enough. And it's like, no, my body does a lot with very little. Right. So like one of the most jacked guys I've ever seen. Like this guy's so jacked that they actually removed him from his lineup at his show so they could judge everyone else. I've never seen that before.
Wow.
I'm like, don't do that. You just dumped on these other dudes.
Yeah, pretty much you guys lost is what they said.
This is for second place. Some of the most modest. Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, at the end, it might not be what you're looking for. I think the average run for TRT is 4 years. 4 years. Because a lot of people that they go down, they're like, oh, this is going to be my golden ticket. And it's like, there's probably other things. Yeah, you probably have to solve things like, the 7 pillars you talked about.
Yeah.
Might be something in there and it's not now you just got above average hormone levels, but your stuff is broken, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not doing the work. Yeah. My story was when I was 28, I just started to notice like a huge decline in my performance. I was actually pretty lean. I was in decent shape. And, I'd never gotten my hormones tested. I'd never done anything like that. And I went in and got a test and my test was really low. And the very first thing the doc says, like, yo, you should need to get on TRT. I'm like, whoa, dude, I'm like 27. Like, calm down. I think I'm good. Made sure my diet was right. Made sure I was eating well, like all these other things. Next year, got it done again. Still lower this time. So I got tested for almost 5 years, every single year. And just watch my testosterone go down. Mind you, I was in good shape, but I was having other health issues, like the mental fogginess and like my general wellness was like way, way, way down. And so we ran genetic tests. We ran cause I, being of European descent, right? There's a genetic disorder that has to do with your body holding on too much ferritin, which is iron. Basically your blood's not releasing the iron properly. I didn't have that, right? And so what it came down to for me is I didn't have a functioning pituitary. So 10 years of playing football and slamming your head into people was causing a host of other issues for me. When I got on it, I didn't actually notice the physical benefits, mind you, because I was already in shape, right? It was more the mental clarity that I got out of it. It was like a cloud was lifted off of me. But today, I don't notice any, I still have to train hard. I still have to sleep well. I still have to manage my stress. I still have to, do the right things, right? I can't just eat like a jerk all the time and let's just stay lean. Like it doesn't work that way. But I would agree with you. I once prepped this guy. His name was Jake Buller. I actually want you to meet him because I'm still trying to convince him to go pro as a bodybuilder. The most ridiculous natural I've ever met in my life. He walked 20 minutes a week, cardio, never went below 200 grams and walked into his show absolutely peeled with like a 27-inch waist, like perfect symmetry. And that was the moment that I said, I'm never going to be able to compete against guys like that because if he decides to go on gear, I'm done. Like I can't compete against that guy.
Yeah. I think because I work with a tested bodybuilder. I mean, I do work with guys that are getting HRT done the right way.
Yeah.
Like I've had people come to me from it was called Viking Health or something.
That's got trouble.
I'm like, yo, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Can we find another clinic?
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll work with people who, because it's like birth control. Right? Like birth control is almost too normal. Some would argue, right?
Yep, agree.
But like, it's like, here's like, for a lot of men, it's like, if this is again like what gets you started, okay, and then maybe over time is like you fix those 7 pillars.
Yep.
You know, you're doing more with your fitness and your training, your nutrition. You might be able to taper that off, or who cares? Maybe you don't. But it's technology. It's medical technology. It's there.
Why did you decide to be natural and never go down that route? What was your reasoning for that?
Man, because I messed up a lot of other sports. So I wasn't the biggest, but I couldn't name a kid faster.
Yeah.
I used to race for money, you know? And for me, it's like, man, I could have been at least like I used to love watching Tim Dwight Richard because that's how I love to do it. Like he had some swag where he would just there's a crease, it's going to be gone. He's like, I'm going through it, bro. And you don't think I can make it there on time, but I'm going to. So like I had this gift for other sports that supersedes like whatever I am as a bodybuilder, but I ruined it because I had probably due to poor parenting, just a hard time taking instruction from men specifically. And that's football culture, dude.
Yeah.
Like, right? So, and business, like, especially if you work in a place where there's a good hierarchy, it's like, dude, these dudes are going to tell you, like drop your ego. You know, they've been there. They are where you want to be.
Right.
But I didn't get that at the time. So bodybuilding to me was like, I didn't need anyone. Right. So, okay, cool. I can get to work, make my own errors, which probably the worst thing for me to start. But it did give me structure. And I benefited from the structure to help me organize my life. Yep. You can't just show up to bodybuilding. Like track meet, I could show up. It's like, all right.
Show up and run. I'm a better athlete.
I got you, you know? But with this, it was different. And I'm like, you know what? I don't trust myself to throw drugs into the mix for something that has been so positive for me. Because at that time, it's like, I'd have to go see a drug dealer. Right.
Yeah, you couldn't go really get TRT. It was just like some dude mixing in his bathtub.
Yep. So I was like, no, I'm good. Let's just keep this, you know, like this, you know, even if it doesn't bring in good profits or the same profits, at least it'll keep me out of trouble. That's all I wanted. And now it's to the point where, I mean, I've started this since I was 16 and realistically, like I feel the same.
Yeah, it's kind of become a badge of honor, right? To be like, no, I can get more peeled than you, and I don't do any drug.
And not only that, I want to see this thing through now, right? Like, because I want it. Eventually, it's going to let me down. It's going to start to decay. It's just not going to work the way it used to work. And I want to see this thing the whole way through because I think there's lessons to be learned there that I can share with others. But yeah, I want to like real mastery is going to be like when this thing starts to fall apart, can I still like do something honorable with it?
Yeah, you got one. I think you said you got one more in the tank, right? You're trying to go for one more title.
I'm gonna do this. So I want to win a pro show. I've won twice in my 30s. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. It was age categories. It was brackets, right?
No, it's just open.
No, but I'm saying for you personally.
Yeah.
Like I want to get into my 30s. I got to get one in my 40s. Got to get one in my 50s,
60s, and 70s.
I just watched the dude that's going around the internet right now. He's like 90. Doing that bodybuilding?
Oh, yeah.
I hope I look like that at 90. Dude, he's 93. Yeah.
You need to stand there and pose. You know? Yeah.
So you want to win one for each decade.
I want to win. And maybe by the time I'm in my 70s, it's going to have to be a show like out in like, I don't know, like Nebraska or something. But I want it to be a pro show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and hopefully this inspires, you know, people to, especially on the fitness side, it's like, it's never too late, bro.
Consistency is the game, just like with business. All right, we'll wrap on this. What do you think the difference is between those who become successful entrepreneurs or bodybuilders and those who give up, quit, or never get started?
Well, that last part you just said is like you don't quit. Like a few years ago, there was this one guy that I kind of came up with in the forums. And I remember he was putting out like social media stuff, trying to like make his company go. And I'm like, bro, why are you doing this? No, at first, but this was kind of like the envious part of me that was kind of projecting the fact that this man had this much willpower, because he was putting out good quality stuff. No one was listening. So I could tell you, like, his messaging was wrong. Like, he was doing that mistake where it was about him. It wasn't about his customer,
right?
You know, but nevertheless, he was putting in effort. And then another year will go by, and another year will go by, and another, and I'm like, almost at this for a decade.
He doesn't quit.
And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is going to pop off. This is going to pop off. And holy crap, you're so inspiring. Like, you went from cringe to inspiring.
Right.
And he quit. And I knew, like,
he couldn't do it.
Just there. He was just about to make it past that point. Just about to make it past that point. So I think his mistake, though, was like, at some point you have to outsource and get whether it's mentors or get the right team around you.
Coaches. Consulting.
Something. Someone who's been through it, you know, to help you avoid some of the pain that you don't have to go through. There will be pain involved, but you get people who could minimize, like, you know, some of the things that you actually don't have to do for your whatever your business goal is or your fitness goal is. So you get that, you get the team once you can afford to invest in that, but then you don't quit. Like, that is it. Like, I was like,
you were heartbroken for him.
I was so, like, I've told myself, and I keep forgetting, I need to reach out to this guy and tell him, like, bro, when you were doing your stuff and no one was like, you were getting no buzz. Like, it went from me being, like, I was in an immature way, maybe laughing a little bit, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, but part of it's because I saw you like a peer, like a competitor.
Yeah.
And to eventually I'm like, oh my God, like, I wish I had some of your qualities, man. You are about to just burst, and it's all going to be worth it.
Can we name drop him right now?
Sure. I think, yeah. RJ Perkins, bro. Like, you know, you were so close, man.
Well, I'm going to get the link from you. We're going to tag this bastard in the.
Yeah.
RJ, you better pick it back up, buddy.
Yeah, he needs to, man. He's good heart.
Well, hey, if you guys take anything away from this, in the wise words of Alberto, there are no gimmicks. There are no shortcuts. The road is long. The journey doesn't stop. It never gets easier. You get better. But if you commit to hard work, you'll learn how to turn that into smart work. And eventually you'll be rewarded for it. So until next time, Bert, man, thanks. Appreciate you, bro.